Hurt Locker follows 3 EOD techs, 3 explosive ordnance disposal technicians in the U.S. Army as they make their way through the last month and a half of their tour.
What really separates this particular conflict, I think, from conflicts in the past is the predominance of IEDs, or roadside bombs. That's really the signature of this particular conflict. And the hope is to be able to replicate the feel of war, the kind of chaos of war, the messiness of war.
I think the thing about the script that really got me is you really got a sense of this world that is so completely unpredictable and completely dangerous. And it doesn't care who anybody is. Anybody can go at any time. And at the same time, there's a real surreal quality to it. And I think that's just a great combination that really says what that experience in Iraq is about.
I spent some time embedded with an Army EOD unit in Iraq and going out on missions with them and living with them and just sort of living life as they live it.
I realized, as Mark was telling me about the EOD team, that they probably had the most dangerous job in the world.
I remember putting down the script. Usually I just put it down. I can't think twice about it, but this one I wrote like 3.5 pages of just ideas and questions and answers, and I was just really captivated by the character and the story.
The way in which the script was written and the way in which it sort of delves into human psychology, I suppose, I found really fascinating. I think, Mark and Kathryn have both done a beautiful job of capturing and sort of realising these characters.
Working with Kathryn has been a life-altering experience.
She's an action director, and she paints with cameras.
I feel like Kathryn has a knack for getting really good performances out of actors.
She's got a really easy way about her, and I think that's always important for an actor, because the more comfortable you feel, the bigger risks, the more exposed, you want to put yourself in.
It's been great having somebody with that much experience and that great sense of visual style and story and character. She's one of the great independent filmmakers.
So we have this EOD team, this explosive ordnance disposal team, comprised of 3 very discrete characters, James, Sanborn, and Eldridge. Jeremy Renner, Anthony Mackie, and Brian Geraghty.
Sergeant James in particular is a soldier who is addicted almost to combat.
He's attracted to the kind of adrenaline that combat provides, but at the same time, he's extraordinary in his ability.
He's got an interesting sort of take on fear. He's kind of a man of few words and a lot of action. He kind of gets things done. Doesn't really talk about it.
Sanborn is somebody who has had a lot of military experience. He's more the everyman. He's there to get his job done.
He's very strong, he's very steady, and he kind of navigates in a very sort of rational way through all this chaos.
I felt like there was this depth with him and this machismo that comes along with a lot of, soldiers, American men, where they aren't allowed to express their emotions till it's too late, and they just overwhelm and boil out.
Eldridge is the character who is the youngest, the most impressionable.
He's looking to Sanborn and he's looking to James for some guidance. And at the same time, on a deeper level, he's looking to see which of those 2 older, more experienced men hold the answer for how to survive.
You see the impression the other team members make upon him, and as he begins to grow and change and transform and begin to reflect either Sanborn or James.
He's a cross between Sanborn and James. He's have moments of strength. He's a funny guy. I think I always thought of him as their support system.
Working with Anthony and Geraghty has been an absolute treat, because they make my jobs easy.
I feel like this movie dealt with the characters in depth and everything that they went through and are going through in the war, trying to make it home.
We found this extraordinary cinematographer, Barry Ackroyd, whose style and ability to create a documentary feel out of fictional material is probably peerless. He puts you right in the front seat. He puts you in the film.
I think the interesting thing is what can you do with the camera that can make you feel like you're a participant. You can put yourself in the middle of the scene, or you can, more correctly, you put yourself right on the edge of the scene and participate in what goes on.
We had 4 discrete units, and I would place them around the 360-degree set So literally, there was no place you could turn that you wouldn't see a camera.
Together. We got cameras everywhere. We call them ninja cameras. They're just hiding all over the place. We never know where anything is. It freaks me out sometimes, but I'm definitely looked in camera like this. Oh, there's a camera all the time.
With this camera, we can shoot up to 50,000 frames per second. So it's like shooting 1,000 image per second.
Kathryn wants to make sure that the shock wave that is generated from real explosions shows through on this and gives a sense of power and reality to it.
Trying to replicate that was really important.
Nobody is any closer than the corner of this building. In an attempt to make this look real, I'm trying to make it real.
The best thing about shooting in the Middle East that's helped me to develop this character is just the heat.
I think the experience here has been physically pretty demanding.
There's sand, wind, heat, sun. There was something incredibly immediate about shooting it in an environment that was unforgivably hot.
I think all of that added to just, compounding these characters to make them more three-dimensional.
Was that sweat's real sweat? Those tears are real tears of pain.
I think there has to be a kind of superhero aspect to soldiers going into war, because if you wake up every day in fear, you'll drive yourself crazy because you realize every minute is possibly your last.
Guy Pearce, Ray Fiennes, David Morse.
And, the script is smart.
The other guys that I'm working with are fantastic.
I'll look back and just be, it's just the most spectacular experience that I've probably done as a man, even as an actor.
My intention was to put the audience into the soldier's shoes, into the Humvee, almost ask them to be the fourth man on the team and have them experience what those soldiers experience. What it's like to walk down in a bomb, how the world begins to recede. It's an epic walk. That's where the film lives. And if you can put the audience there and give them that walk, then I suppose as a filmmaker, I've done everything I could imagine doing.
There was something great about his character, something that was very humble in a way, something that was very self-assured, but at the same time, inner level of insecurity. Originally, Sanborn wasn't written for a black actor. When I took the meeting with Kathryn and Mark and Greg, the one thing I went into the meeting trying to explain to them was, this is a movie about war. They're Latins, they're Latin Americans, they're Black Americans, they're white Americans. Anybody who is an American is involved in the position that we're in Iraq. I think the one scene that really defines Sanborn in the film and really exemplifies what he goes through in the arc of his character is the scene with he and James in the Humvee after Eldridge is gone. James has put Eldridge in a place where he's witnessed his mortality in a way. I think there has to be a kind of superhero aspect to soldiers going into war, because if you wake up every day in fear, you'll drive yourself crazy because you realize every minute is possibly your last. And when they go in and try to defuse this bomb on the man in the black suit, that's when they almost die. That really wakes Sanborn up, and he realizes how important life is and how, you only get one. And there's so many things he wanted to experience and see, and so many things that he wanted to do that he hasn't done. He's still a kid, So once he realizes that, he kind of comes to grips with his place in the world. And I think that's exemplified in that scene when he says, I want to go home and have a son.
He's kind of he's the backbone of the crew. Like he makes sure his boys are all right. He's there to joke. He's always got everything together. And I started in the way they were treating me as Brian that crosses into Eldridge is interesting, because we developed a relationship on camera and off that's kind of very special to all of us,
I think the thing about the script that really got me is you really got a sense of this world that is so completely unpredictable and completely dangerous. And it doesn't care who anybody is. Anybody can go at any time. And at the same time, there's a real surreal quality to it. And I think that's just a great combination. That really says what that experience in Iraq is about. I met Kathryn a long time ago on another film that she did, which I was very disappointed not to do, and I've made sure she knows it now. And I'm really just happy to do something with her. I like her quite a bit, and again, I mean, you know, the script is smart, she's smart, and it's a great combination. I guess where this guy would fit in with what I've done is, and it's part of what I like about the script. You know, you could never put your finger on whether this guy is a good guy or a bad guy. This is a guy who's really doing his job, really knows how to do it, really been through it, and he's commanding, you know, insanity in a way. Well, being here, you know, for the first time in the Middle East, a place that I am happiest to come to for the first time is Jordan. My family, my great-grandfather, as a matter of fact, had spent a lot of time here. And as a kid, he gave me a present that was given to him by the King of Jordan. So I've always had this desire to come here and see this place. So for me, I'm thrilled to get to come here, especially for my first time.
The experience of being here has been really unusual and fantastic all at the same time, because I've never been to the Middle East before, and I've heard a lot about Jordan, and I've really not done a war film before either. So on two levels, it's a giant sort of learning curve, and I've just twisted my ankle too. So that always adds an extra degree of difficulty to any situation. But it's clearly fascinating because when one comes to some culture that one doesn't really know or understand, it's totally sort of eye-opening. And a bunch of us got the chance to go to Petra the other day and to the Dead Sea and kind of experience things that I've heard about for many years, but obviously haven't seen for myself. So really fascinating. And Kathryn is someone I've wanted to work with for 10 years now or something. So it's really nice to be a part of her film. It's also kind of odd because I'm really just here for 3 days, and I've never done that before. I've never really done a cameo before. I kept looking through the script, just surely there's more of me in here somewhere. No, there's not. Ultimately, working on any film, you're sort of bombarded by a series of things that are either a distraction or they're ultimately helpful in what it is you're doing. And for me, it's a very fine line between whether something is a distraction or helpful. Clearly, the story that we're telling at this point, in the beginning of the film, is trying to sort of disarm this bomb, and we get into a situation where a helicopter comes flying over that is really unhelpful for us at this point in time. And there was a sort of madness when we shot that. We weren't kind of sure which direction the helicopter was going to come in from, and because I play an EOD guy, so I'm fully decked out in a bomb suit helmet. There's a fan in the helmet, so I can't hear anything. So there's a slight sort of disorienting feeling in being in the gear that I was in, which on one level is really distracting because you're trying to get a grip of what's going on, but on another level it's actually really helpful because I imagine being in a war zone is kind of disorienting anyway. So it's, as I say, you sort of flip back and forth between feeling like you're out of control and feeling like you kind of got things under control. Being here and meeting the local people, I mean, it's not dissimilar to other countries that I've been to. And the odd thing about it is you never feel like you get a fully objective point of view, because as a film crew, you tend to be a bit of an odd sort of focal point anyway. I always feel like I want to be in a place longer and actually, away from the film set, but so you can get more of an objective point of view. But so far, everyone has been really fascinated and fascinating, and I think just really kind of welcoming, there's a great sense of passion here and sort of sensitivity for one another. I mean, I think sometimes, you know, life in the West as we know it can sometimes be a little disconnected from other people. Whereas here I get a real sense that people kind of look out for each other and, you know, and in relation to the film and the film being here, I think people were really, are really excited about us being here and want to sort of do what they can to help, you know. Everyone's kind of chipping in and doing stuff. So it's really delightful, I have to say.
It's all I can only assume whatever James is by his actions and by what Mark Boal has written as his actions to be, which is telling of someone big time. But I think that what drives those actions is like what's really important to me. And so I, you know, these philosophies about fear, and to me, these are all the things that go in my head. If they transcribe onto cinema, I don't know, but that's certainly what pushes me through it, you know. That sweat's real sweat. Those tears are real tears of pain. But I'm glad we're not in some soundstage, you know, and actually, you know, I feel like I have just a sliver of a fraction of an idea of what maybe EOD or anybody in the military might go through every day. You know, it's unbelievable how torturous it's been. And but on the other side, is even just as a tourist, it's been educational to learn about an Arab culture that, as a Westerner, especially an American, so unfamiliar with. I had so many questions and ideas and concerns, and I don't know. It just provoked a lot of thought and emotion, you know, and that's I think that's fantastic, and I hope the film will do that as well. I mean, because I think that's what cinema should be. You know, sure, you can pay $11 and go be entertained, but it'd be nice if it provoked a thought or an emotion that you didn't think or feel before you paid that $11. And do I think this is an anti-war film? No, I don't think it's anti-war. Am I anti-war? Yeah, I'm anti-war. But am I anti-military? Hell no. You know what I mean? So there's a lot of questions that people may have. And will this make them more confused? Maybe. I hope so. You know, will it make you think twice? Right on. You know, you learn something.